Welcome to the InPower Coffee Break. We have this conversation every Tuesday from 1 to 1:30 Eastern, where we talk with special guests and with you, our participants, when you come on live, about a variety of topics having to do with surviving and thriving in the workplace, both leading an effective and emotionally intelligent workplace that works for everybody, your customers, your employees, your shareholders, as well as what it means to be in one of those workplaces and survive and make this part of your career and manage your career towards the kind of success that's meaningful to you. We like to talk with people who can give us greater insights into women in the workforce and women in leadership in particular. And that's why we have Vreneli Stadelmaier here today. She has written a book on the imposter syndrome, which we'll go into in much depth. And she's from the Netherlands. So we're very happy to have her here to bring a very interesting perspective and perhaps a unique one that many of us have not thought about before. So I would like to invite everybody who is on the call or coming into the call to feel free to participate through chat. And if you'd like, we'd promote you in to have a conversation on video or audio. We enjoy doing that from time to time. So Mary, why don't you introduce Vreneli and we'll get going with the conversation.
Sure. So holding an MBA, registered coach, source of inspiration, speaker, entrepreneur, author, blogger, and publisher, Vreneli owns the company SheConsult, which addresses imposter syndrome in women. You can get a copy of her book, Sure She Can, to better understand her approach to overcome imposter syndrome. In 2015, winner of the prestigious Joke Smit Award for Gender Equality, awarded by the Dutch government. She is divorced, married again with another man, mother of 3 children and 2 bonus children. Welcome, Vreneli.
Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, well, thank you for joining us. I don't even want to think about what time it is over there.
Well, it's 7 p.m. So
oh, that's not too bad.
That's not too bad. It's also coffee break.
Yes, exactly.
In the Netherlands, we drink coffee at 7 or 8 p.m. So it's a coffee break time.
Excellent point. Excellent point. So, you know, I'm really, having worked a lot with women myself, I know, as you do, that women have a variety of issues in the workplace when it comes to either just, you know, feeling authentic and able to sort of fulfill their own professional goals, much less get into leadership positions. And some of those are very common, you know, men encounter them too, although men and women sometimes deal with them differently and experience them differently. But I'm very interested that you focused in on this one issue, the imposter syndrome, and wrote an entire book about it and focused your practice on it, which tells me, similar to some of my own experience, that this is a big deal for women. This requires women to delve deep and go deep to really get the imposter syndrome out of their way in pursuing their own career success. At least that's how I feel about it. But the fact that you focus so intentionally on it makes me think maybe you feel the same. So why did you focus so much energy on the imposter syndrome as opposed to the laundry list of other things?
Yeah, well, I'm a feminist all my life. And when I graduated, it's 35 years ago, I thought in my life, it will happen that men and women are equal at the top of the big businesses and the small businesses and the governmental organization, and so on and so on. And now I'm 54 and it still hasn't changed, well, a little bit. So I thought, what's going on? Why isn't it changing? Companies have policies, they invest money, they invest people in the diversity. It's all over on the agenda. Why isn't it happening? Women are as graduated as men, as good graduated as men are. So what's holding us back? And then I found out in my coaching practice that all those women were saying things as, yeah, but it feels fake. Yeah, I'm afraid of being found out. And I thought, what's that? What's that? And I have it myself too, those thoughts. So
just interrupt for a second. So let's make sure we all know what we're talking about with the imposter syndrome. And some people don't recognize they have this because they don't listen to their own sub-thoughts.
Yes.
And so what you're saying is that moment where you're about to go give a presentation and all of a sudden you feel like, oh my gosh, you feel this fear, you may not know why. And if you do delve down into it, you find out, well, they'll find out I really don't know what I'm talking about.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that even if you do understand that thought, then now you're aware of it. But even if you don't understand that thought, beneath a lot of our fears and anxieties is this idea that we're really not as good as we project that we are, or that other people think that we are, and that somehow we're hiding. We're an imposter. You know, the face we put up is fake.
Yeah.
Like,
And rationally, you know that you are capable of, that you have all the competences and the experience and the training and etc. etc. You know that you are fully equipped to do it. You are the right woman on the right spot, and still you are afraid of being found out. Still you feel a fraud. That's what we're talking about. So I did some research, and I found out the imposter syndrome. And in the United States,
it's a thing.
Well known. Yeah, in the United States, there's a lot of research done. There are a lot of books written about the imposter syndrome. And here in the Netherlands and in Europe, nobody knows. I found one scientific research done by Belgium University. So I thought, well, that's it. That's what we are suffering from. That's what's holding us back, those thoughts in our head. So, and that's what makes us feel insecure. Yeah, the fear of being found out. So,
well, I really like what you're saying about the difference between our thoughts and our feelings.
Yes. But first, there are the thoughts, and then there comes the feeling. And those thoughts are very quick, and the feeling is also very quick. Sometimes you think the feeling is first, and then come the thoughts. But it's the other way around. First, there are the thoughts, and then there come the feeling. And if you can change the thoughts, you can change your feeling. And you are not your thoughts. You can think something else. You can choose what to think. So I in my book, I describe it, those inner voices, I describe them as parrots on your shoulder. And those parrots are screaming, "Watch out! They are going to find out that you're a fraud, and you can't do it, stop, hold back," or that's the other way around. Work hard, you can't make a mistake, work 24/7, set the bar very high, being a perfectionist, because a fault is a drama. So those parrots are screaming, but you don't have to listen to them.
Well, you know, I just wanted to point out something else you said I think is so important, because many women have this feeling like, oh, I have to be perfect, right?
Yeah, but
I have to be perfect. And you know, where does that come from? Well, I think it comes from a lot of places. We could spend the next 4 hours talking about all the social and cultural, you know, dynamics of where it comes from, not the least of which is everybody's waiting for you to make a mistake, right? But to your point, that perfection, you know, drive often comes from this feeling of being fake. And that if you go, like you're talking about, and reprogram your own mind and your own heart around whether you are a fake, because you're not, then you begin to be able to back off needing to be perfect. But until you've addressed that imposter, you know, dynamic within you, it's very hard. You feel very vulnerable when you try to back off, you know, I'm not going to be perfect today, you know, and you just feel like you're opening yourself up to huge vulnerability there.
Exactly. Yeah. It's I see it with a lot of women that thrive to be perfect, but I always say somebody who's perfect is very annoying. It's stupid. I don't like perfect people. They don't exist, but well, sometimes you see women where everything seems to be perfect. And they look perfect, the nails and the shoes, and they have the perfect job and the perfect husband and the perfect children and the perfect house, and they can bake perfect cookies and do everything perfect. But that's not true.
That was me.
Nervous.
That was me, by the way, except for the cookies a few years ago. Well, so
not perfect.
You're right. Well, and just to be clear too, men have this. I have talked to men who have this same kind of sense of vulnerability around not being perfect or feeling like an imposter. I think it's a universal human thing, although I do think it's true that almost every woman I know has experienced this in one way or another.
Yeah. Well, we did some research ourselves in the Netherlands, and we asked 500 men and women if they are familiar with those thoughts, the fear of being found out. And then half of the men and 3/4, 75% of the women say, well, I know those thoughts. But then we ask them, do you suffer from them? Do they hinder you in your career? And then, 30% of the men say, yes, those thoughts hinder me. And 65% of the women say it hinders me. So it's twice. The women are twice more hindered by the imposter syndrome. And I think that's due to several causes. It's our culture. We women have to be in the background, have to be serving to men, are less worth. Listen to Donald Trump, you know what I mean?
Well, actually, I do know what you mean, and I think that's a very relevant thing to bring up right now, which is that this, and not just the Trump dynamic, but the whole discussion that it's a part of around what they call rape culture, and the culture that basically makes the woman take more responsibility, and not just for any sexual encounter, but for anything that happens around her, right? I mean, and that's part of what's happening here. Yeah. When things go wrong, our culture, meaning the women and the men, tend to blame the women more, and they give men, less responsibility for whatever happened. And by the way, I did recently read some research, which is different than this, but completely parallel and consistent to it, which is ethics. Culturally, we hold women to higher ethical standards than we do men. And these are, not in a sexual situation at all, just ethics in general. And I think when you see all those data points, you start to understand, the pressure that we as women and girls are under to not make mistakes, to be, to take more responsibility for what's going on, make sure more things go right. That perfectionist comes from all of that. And I think, to your point, when you have that much pressure on you, of course you're going to feel fake, because you can't possibly be responsible for all that.
Exactly. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. And it's still a man's world. The rules in companies, in organizations are masculine rules. Men take the important decisions. So, it's not strange that women feel uncomfortable, feel insecure. So I think that's one part of the cause of the imposter syndrome. And it's also because we are told as children, as girls, little girls, we are told to be nice and to be modest and to be serving and to and not to be bossy and things like that. So well, if you want to make a career, and you have to be a bit bossy, and you have to be a bit bitchy sometimes, and to be to take risks, and to give a voice to your ideas and things like that. So that are not female qualities. So that's also a bit confusing for women. And the other thing is that we have hormones, and we have less testosterone, and we have some more estrogen. Is that the right word in English?
Estrogen.
How?
Estrogen.
Estrogen. Okay. Estrogen. Okay, that's a difficult word. Estrogen. And if you have those parrots on your shoulder screaming that you shouldn't do it, that you should stay where you are and not take the risk, and you need a bit testosterone to say, okay, come on, let's do it. I'll take the risk. I go for it. And if you don't have that much testosterone in your blood, well, then maybe you don't do it and you hold back. So I think our hormones don't help. And there's also something with our brain. In our brain, the connections work better than they work in men's brains. We are, everything is connected to everything in our brain, and with men it's more focused. It's more located on one position in the brain. So when there comes a problem to a female brain, everything works. Everything is connected to everything, and everything is looking for a solution. So we can see the problem in the total context, in the entire field. So we can make very good decisions, but sometimes it takes some time.
And also sometimes all those connections and all that context make us feel helpless, because we see exactly how much of an imposter we are, we think, right? Because we can justify it from all these different points of view.
Exactly. And when everything happens in your head, everything is connected to everything. And then there's also a parrot sitting on your shoulder and screaming to go away and don't do it, please don't do it. Then there's total panic. And then, well, what do? You flee, you run away. You say, I'm not going to take the challenge. I'm not going to do this. Please let me stay here in this position. Or you go working very hard. You set the bar very high. You become a perfectionist and so on. So I think that's the mechanism. That's how the mechanism works.
So it's interesting to me. I want to transition here in a minute to talk about solutions. What can we do about this? Because there are solutions to all of this.
Yes.
But I want to bring up also the connection to authenticity, because one of the things that women value, and I don't think men don't value it, but I know women value it, is this need to feel authentic.
Yeah.
So the minute you discover, consciously or unconsciously, that you feel fake, it's uncomfortable on many levels. One is you feel vulnerable, right? And the other is that you just don't like feeling fake. You want to feel authentic. And to your point earlier, the predominant business cultures are more masculine. They were defined by men. And it's very hard for a woman to feel authentic playing that game, because it's not authentic to us for a lot of reasons. Social, hormonal, as you bring up, and lots of reasons. So to me, one of the biggest challenges is to recognize that it is a crisis of authenticity as much as it's a crisis of, insecurity and feeling vulnerable. And that part of what you're doing when you step into that breach and decide to go do it is that you're finding your authentic voice and your authentic style and your authentic way of dealing with whatever is challenging you. And the goal is to figure it out and then be that in an authentic way. Because the women who succeed, and there are women who succeed authentically, that's what they're doing. They're finding their authentic way to participate in the culture and get over these kinds of, mental voices in their head, the parrots on their shoulder. I love that. and so that they feel authentic, because when you're feeling authentic, you feel kind of personally powerful.
Exactly. Yeah. I think you're right, and I think that if you want to feel authentic, you have to know that you have parrots on your shoulder, and you have to know what they are saying and that they are lying, and that you don't have to listen to them because that are old voices coming from your family or coming from your culture, and they're lying, so you don't have to listen to them. And the other thing is, you mentioned already the culture and the predominant masculine culture, and the rules in the culture are made by men, and a lot of women don't know the rules. But you have to play it by the rules if you want to play with it. I always say, if you play soccer, it's a very popular game in Holland, soccer. And if you play soccer, you can't catch the ball with your hands. That's against the rules. You have to kick the ball, and you can't catch them. And you have to know that. If you don't know that, and you are going to play soccer and you catch the ball, well, yeah, you made a fault, and okay, you get a penalty. So if you want to play with the boys, you have to know the rules. And then the challenge is to know the rules, and knowing when you play it by the rules or don't play it by the rules, and do it on your own way. You transform them to a way you feel comfortable in playing with the rules. And that's for every woman different.
Yes, and in some sense you're making your own rules, within the kind of global cultural rules, and sometimes you can shift those cultural rules. Yeah. So what is it that you help women do? Once they, like, I think the most important thing you said was understand that their voices, their parrots on your shoulder, and they're lying to you.
Exactly.
That's critical. But when you get to that point, when you can actually hear those voices and you recognize that's not necessarily true, it's not necessarily me, what do you do? Because I remember my own, when I encountered this earlier in my career, that was my biggest thing. It's like, okay, I get the problem. I don't think I get the solution.
Yeah.
And I spent 20 years figuring that out, and now helping other women too. And so I'm wondering what is the path that you take women through?
Yeah. Well, it first starts with some research on your parrots. What kind of parrots do you have? What did they say?
Wait, parents or parrots?
Parrots.
The ones on your shoulder. Okay.
Yeah,
because sometimes your parrots are parroting your parents.
Yeah, sometimes it's the voice of your father, or the voice of your mother you hear. You're right. Yeah, well, I'm talking about parrots. And it's important to know when they pop up, in what kind of situations, what are the triggers. Sometimes I hear from women that they say, well, every time I'm talking with an older white man, the little girl parrot pops up, and I feel shrinking into a little girl, and I can't get out. And so what's happening? What's happening inside your head? What's the parrot say? What does the parrot say that makes you feel that way? And if you know that it happens in that occasions, you can be prepared, and you can go inside the room where those men are and leave the parrot outside. It's you can practice that, and
just invite your parrot to the meeting.
Or invite it and say, you can come with me, but you have to shut up.
Good idea.
So in coaching sessions, I use a technique. It's called voice dialogue. Maybe you are familiar with it. Voice dialogue.
Not by that name.
From Hall and Sidra Stone. They're also from the United States. Well, it's a technique where you visualize your inner voices and talk with them. Have a dialogue with the voice. So
yes, you can turn them into characters, actually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what you do. Yeah. Yeah. And you give them a name and you describe them, and then well, then it makes it easier to handle.
Right. And as you said, easier to kind of separate yourself from the voice.
Exactly.
I did not know that had a name. I knew about it.
Yeah. 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 And you can, what I do with clients, I put them in the room. So I say to my client, okay, think you are the little girl parrot. So take a chair and put the chair in the room somewhere and sit on it. And the moment you sit on that chair, you are the little girl parrot. And,
I love that.
And it's amazing, but everybody can do it. And when they are on their chair, they know what to say, and they know what they feel, and they know why they say it, what's behind it, what's the deeper intention. And if you can recognize the underlying intention, well, then you can handle it. You can say, oh, that's the reason. That's why this is happening. And now I'm an adult. Now I know that well, it's not true anymore. So I don't have to listen to it.
I'm imagining your office covered in chairs and little stuffed parrots that people move around and hold the parrot on their lap while they talk. I love that, though, because you're absolutely right that when people allow themselves to be that voice, this wealth of information comes up within them.
Great.
They are often, kind of shoving down, pushing aside, and it basically often tells them what they need to do, right?
Exactly. And I can't predict what comes out. I can't predict what it is. Every time it's so surprising what they say and what they know, that what they say, what they have to do or what they want to do. It's great. It's really great. Yeah.
I know we're running out of time, and I would love to have you back, actually, maybe with one of your clients or someone else, because one of the things I was hoping we'd get time for, and we just didn't, because this is so fascinating, talking about our personal experiences. I know I have some. I know Mary has some. I know you have some, because you're going to be blogging about them on our website next week.
Yeah.
And I think that if it would be interesting to take these kind of ideas and principles and then look at some real situations that everybody can relate to, because it is so intertwined and complex. And maybe we can put somebody in the parrot seat.
That would be nice, huh?
Somebody wants to be brave enough to step up and be one of the parrots.
I think we can find somebody who wants to. Somebody, yeah.
That would be great, because it is such an important topic, and it is so key to women. I love that research you quoted. Is that something that you have on your website, or we can link to that?
In my book. It's described in my book, but it's I found also a lot of research in the United States from Glance and how do they Pauline Glance and well, I don't know. It's in my book, but they did a lot of research and they found out the same figures as I did. So there's not very much difference between it.
Well, we have a gender leadership research index on our website, and we'd be happy if you want to send us a couple of stats. We'd be happy to link, put them in our index and then link to your book or your site to point people at that, because I don't think we have any. I can't think of any resources off the top of my head that specifically focus on the imposter syndrome. There's a number that mention it, but I'd love to highlight you in the index.
I'll send them to you. Okay, great.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time and your insight and
Time flies.
your evening coffee session with us. We'll get with Mary and we'll get you another time to come back in the next few months or something.
Okay, great.
So thank you. And
your show. Thank you.
absolutely. And Mary, thanks again for hosting us. And one more time, you can go to coffeebreak.InPowerCoaching.com to access all recordings from past sessions, look at what's coming up, subscribe to reminders which will give you the participation information if you'd like to come into one of these interviews and participate with us. So thank you all for listening. And we will see you next Tuesday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time for our next topic at coffeebreak.InPowerCoaching.com. Take care, everybody, and thanks again, Vreneli.
Okay, you're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.